Hi there, everyone. This is Toni Marie's Creations, and coming to you today to show you a little Christmas treat that is fun to make. It will be a really good table decorations for if you have holiday dinner or just to give out to friends, or if you are a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, maybe use these as little thank you treats for your customers. I'm going to try to get the video a little bit straighter here as I'm starting this off, but this particular treat is going to feature our Wishes and Wonders stamp set and dies, and then for my sentiment I'm actually using from the Itty Bitty Christmas stamp set, but you could use any Christmas sentiments that you might have on hand. They just need to be a little small, and I'll show you the reason why here just a second. So let me move the stamp sets off to the side and show you what I made with this. So this is a little three-dimensional treat holder that uses the sleigh and a couple of little embellishments. And as you can see here, the sentiment, as I said, needs to be a little bit small because it needs to fit in this small space. But if I turn this right side up, you can see it's got Hershey Nuggets stacked in here. And bear with me, I'm still trying to get this video straight. There's two, and I've just stacked them together using a glue dot. So I want to show you what the products are that we're going to use today. And I showed you the stamp sets. We're also going to use thick Whisper White cardstock. And I used thick because I wanted it to hold up from handling, but I do think that regular Whisper White would work just as well. But the inks that we're going to use today are Soft Suede and Real Red. We're going to use a scrap of gold foil, and this happens to actually be the gold metallic foil. You only need a small piece to do this project, and I was going to show you what I have already cut out, but somehow that has moved off of my workspace. Hopefully it'll turn up here soon. We're also going to use a silicone sheet because I'm going to show you how to do a reverse image stamp. And let's see, DSP. I am using our 'Tis the Season. I've got that back covered, but 'Tis the Season DSP. You can use any appropriate DSP, Christmas related DSP that you have. We're going to use our red rhinestones. And just a tip, if you don't have our red rhinestones, but you do have our regular rhinestones, you can simply use an alcohol marker and color those with a red alcohol marker and get the same effect. And you can really stretch our plain rhinestones, stretch the usage of those by being able to color them with any color alcohol ink that you might have. Now just keep in mind, the lighter, more soft shades are a little bit harder to see when you're coloring the rhinestones, but you can still do that same effect. We're going to use our Take a Pick tool, some glue dots. I'm using the red ribbon that comes in the package. Let me get my notes here. All the trimming ribbons, all the trimmings ribbon, and it comes in red and green with a gold stripe on either side, and I'm using the red. But you just need to color coordinate your ribbon to whatever color DSP you're using, and that would be fine. Last but not least, I think you need 2 Hershey Nuggets. Okay, so I'm going to just move this stuff off to the side for a little bit. You're also going to use some scraps of thick Whisper White and some scraps of just regular Whisper White too. And I do have a tutorial for this, and I'll attach it to the video once it posts, so you have the directions on how to make this as well. So let's get started. I'm going to take a piece of thick Whisper White and again, the measurements will all be in the tutorial, but I'm taking my sleigh and my soft suede ink, and I want to stamp one image. And if you notice, this is a directional stamp, so the image is going this way. And I want to do a second one, but I want the reverse side of I want the image to be going in the other direction. So that's where we're going to use the silicone sheet. Stampin' Up! does sell the sheets, and somehow I got something stained red on mine. I'm not quite sure what I did, but it does not affect the sheet at all. So I'm going to ink this up again, and I'm going to stamp this directly onto my silicone sheet. Hopefully you can see that. Let me move this into the image a little bit more. So I've stamped it directly onto my sheet, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn this over, and you can see it through the sheet. So I'm just going to lay this down on my thick Whisper White, and I'm going to just press my finger over that image, and when I lift it, I've got the reverse image now of that sleigh. So you can use this technique on any stamp that you want to get a reverse image of. It's really simple to do. If I were doing an image, say if we had a little puppy dog facing one way and I wanted to put a buddy next to him facing the other way, I could do that just on my measured piece of cardstock and do it that way. So let me just clean my stamp off here and move that to the side. So what I have done already, just so that I'm not wasting your time doing all my cutting, I went ahead and cut these out with the dies that come with that bundle. Now, I've moved my stamp set and I don't know where it went. You can actually, so here are the dies. I buy my own magnetic sheets to put on the inside of my stamp sets. When they have coordinating dies, I like to keep them together. So I'm going to take this sleigh, and this is also the other die that I used for this project. But when I go to cut this out, obviously this is the way it's meant to go. This is the direction it's meant to go. So your option for this is you can fussy cut this, and it's not too difficult because you're really just going around an outside image. But you can actually use the die to do it another way, and I don't think I'm going to get the correct lighting to show you this, but you can actually hold your cardstock up to the light and you'll see the image on the back part of it. And what I did was I just held it up. I put a piece of washi tape on two sides, and then I ran this through to get that cut out for the opposite way. So there's two different ways you can do that. You can do it this way, just by holding it up and lining it up through the light, or you can just fussy cut your image, whichever works best for you. So now that I do have my images cut, I'm going to use a Wink of Stella, and I forgot to say that as part of the supplies, but it is on the PDF. And I love Wink of Stella because it just adds the right amount of bling or a little special something to your stamped images. And depending on how soon after you stamp the image you start to color it, you will actually see that Wink of Stella kind of draws the color out, and it kind of gives it a little bit of a watercolor effect. It's not showing so much right now because I did stamp these a little while ago, but I'm just basically running the Wink of Stella over all the detail on this sleigh. And I think it just gives it just the right amount of pop for the project. So let me just go ahead and finish this coloring here on these two. And the other thing that you're going to notice is when you do a reverse stamped image is that your second stamped image, even though you stamped it full strength onto the silicone sheet, it's going to be just a shade or less than a shade lighter than the original color. And that's because you're basically doing a stamping off type of a technique. You're stamping the ink twice. So it does show just a slight shade lighter than the original image. And for this particular project, it really doesn't make any difference. So I've got my two pieces of sleigh there. And then on another scrap piece of paper, I stamped another sled. And what I did was I came in and I fussy cut. I just wanted this solid white center of the sleigh. I wanted to cut that out because I wanted to use it as a template. So this is what I ended up with, as it says, template. And then I came in with my DSP and I laid it down in one direction and I traced it. And then you need to flip it going in another direction. As you see, I was practicing on some of my stampings, which doesn't matter because this is just a template. And I traced it going in the other direction. And that's what gave me my two pieces, because I just wanted to dress the sleigh up a little bit more. Now I could have come in and colored this with my alcohol inks, but I just wanted it to have a little bit of a pattern because I just think it makes it look a little more festive. So I'm going to come in with my multi-purpose liquid glue, and the reason I'm using this is because it just gives me an extra second or two to slide this in place. So I'll come up here. And my fussy cutting wasn't all that perfect this time, but that's okay. And I'll come and do the same thing to the second piece. You can really dress up your sleigh using whatever little scraps of DSP you might have lying around, which, if you're like me, there are many. Okay, so now I've got my sleigh decorated. It looks a little bit more fancy. Okay, so that's the outside pieces of the sleigh. So what we need to come in and do now is we're going to make this little base, what I call the base of it. And that's going to use a piece of 2.5 by 2 cardstock. And you can use just regular Whisper White. You don't need to use the thick for this because you're basically just making a little bit of a tray to put your candies in. And so you're going to score this at 1/2 inch on all 4 sides, which is what I've done here. And then you're going to cut. So when you're holding the piece where the 2 inches is across the top and the 2.5 is on your side, you're going to cut into the first intersection of the score line on both ends. So you're going to have a piece that looks like that. And then you're going to come back with that and you're going to start creating your little box. So I'm just going to go ahead and use this piece since I already have it cut out and I have it scored. And you're going to put glue on those 4 tabs. And remember, when you're working with the, I guess I should have burnished those a little bit better first. When you're working with the multi-purpose glue, a little goes a long way. You don't want to glop the glue on because it'll start squeezing out to the sides. And you don't want that. So I'm just going to press on that just for a couple of seconds to let that set up. And then I'll come back and do the same on the other end. Oops, kind of lost it there. And the same thing here, is you're going to just let that set up. I notice I'm just a little cockeyed on the camera, so I apologize that I'm not centered better on that. So now we have our base, and then we're just going to, and as you see, this was a sample. I used the other side of that, so I'm obviously not going to be able to use this to give away, but it's good for just showing you how to put this together. So then you're going to apply a little glue to the long side, and I just set that in so it's not quite at the bottom, and it's just behind the little cut in for the back of the sled or sleigh. And then I'm going to just apply a little of the liquid glue again. And what I did for this is I kind of set this down, and then I went and pressed it in that way, because then I can visually see a little bit better that it's lined up and it's square, it's sitting the way it needs to. Let me turn it this way, because now that's going to bother me that I stamped on the other side of that scrap paper. Oh dear. Okay, so now we've got our base set up. Okay. And next we're going to go ahead and stamp our sentiment. And I used Real Red for this, and of course it's you're going to use the colors that coordinate best with your, oh my gosh, now I've misplaced my stamp. Oh gosh, it's right in front of me. Oh my gosh. A little late in the day, I guess, or maybe not enough coffee. But anyway, so I'm going to use my Real Red, and I'm just going to use a scrap piece of Whisper White, and I'm going to stamp that. And I'm going to use my red rhinestones. So again, I just want to put a little bit of bling on this sentiment, so that's going to go right in the front, just like that. And now I'm going to fussy cut this, and I want to make it pretty narrow because, as I said, there's not a lot of room on the side of the sled. So you can't make this sentiment too large. And now I can kind of trim this down a little bit more. And you can do a banner on the end, or you can just kind of cut it off in an angle, which is what I'm going to do. And now that's my sentiment. And I have already used my die, and there's 2 small dies this size for this little sprig, I guess is what you would call it. And that's going to go at the back of the sentiment. I'm just going to cut that little bit of piece off there, and I'm going to apply it with a glue dot. Use my Take a Pick tool, and see, I'll put that about right there. And I'll have that going off like that. And then I want to use mini glue dots for this. And of course they've moved off the side of my table as well. I don't know where all of my things are going. I start off with them being close by, and somehow they gravitate someplace else. And actually I can't find my minis, so I will just cut down on some of my regular size here. As you know, as a crafter, we use up every single piece of our embellishment, so I always just come in and cut around the edges. Okay, let me move that out of the side. And now I can take off my backing and apply my sentiment. I'm going to work on this side since I have all that other stuff going on the other side. Okay, so that's my little side there. And I had already tied a little bow for extra embellishment, and that's going to just go up here. So same thing, I'm just going to use another glue dot to apply that. I'll place that there. And then I can come in and trim off some of the excess ribbon. So that in effect is our little treat holder. And now all I have to do is come in and do my Hershey Nuggets. And I have already cut 2 strips of 1" by 3" DSP. And I wanted something different than what I've actually used on the sides of the sled. So since I've got my glue dots handy, you're just going to wrap that around. And I actually, because I don't want this all popping up, I'll just put a piece down here, and I'll put 2 on the other side just to hold that a little bit more secure. I love using Hershey Nuggets for, oh, that came off on my fingernail, for treats that I like to give out to. I always make a thank you gift or thank you treat for my attendees to my stamp classes, and a lot of times it's Hershey Nuggets. So I'm going to come in and do the same thing. I just want to put something to hold that first strip in place so I can wrap it without worrying about it flying all over the place. I'll come back around and just apply my 2 glue dots to this as well. You could use multi-purpose glue on this, and you can actually just use our stamp and seal as well. This just is what I had handy and works too. So you just tighten that up. So then you're going to place 1 here. Let me just do this first, another glue dot, place that on the top. It goes into the base, and then we finish with this on top, and just a little press to kind of hold it down there, and you've got your little finished treats. So as you can see, you can decorate them on either side, so you've got a couple of them going in opposite directions. But just a quick little way of using the sleigh in a different way. I knew as soon as I saw this stamp set that I was going to attempt to make a treat holder out of it. And honestly, I have been stamping in some way, shape, or form for, gosh, probably 30 years. And I've been a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator for almost 23. And this project is the first time I've ever done reverse stamping. So kind of funny it took me that long to actually get on board and give it a try. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed it. I will post the dimensions for all the cardstock that you need. But it is basically just working with scraps of paper, except for the wrapped Hershey Nuggets. And that's always a 1" by 3" strip of paper to wrap around those. So I hope you enjoy my little Christmas cheer Hershey Nugget holders. And I want to thank you for taking a few moments to watch my video. Hope you have a wonderful day. Thanks.